How many people here just got this stuff tonight? 4, 5? Okay, so a half dozen. I'm just going to treat you all like we just all got it tonight, because I talked to a few people that I don't think they quite got all the particulars just down right the last time I did it, but we were in a real big hurry to do it. The bird is a Ruddy Turnstone. This is a breeding plumage. All of you, and myself included, that's been to Florida have seen these. They're never this colorful at this time of the year. But I have seen them in Minnesota when they are this colorful. They're pretty spectacular. And if you look at Google on your computer and hit images for Ruddy Turnstone, you'll get all different types. And believe it or not, they're not all exactly the same. So you can kind of pick your colors. The sheet I handed out, the colored sheet of the profile of this bird, you get a pretty good idea what it can look like. That's just kind of as a guide for you. When Bruce first asked if I would do this, I was thinking, well, I like these birds because they're simple in their own little way. They're not real hard to carve, but there's something just kind of neat about them all. And one thing I've always noticed every time I've ever been around them at any kind of a show, the ladies come up and they all see these, they'll walk by a million decoys kind of and get over to see the shorebirds. They just love them. I think Kurt has made a living selling these things in his career, Kurt Sign, and they're very popular. And I think they're nice to look at. And enough said about that. Plus, everybody knows I like the bird. So what I want to talk about is, here's that piece of wood I told you about I had laying around. And as of this afternoon, I decided I better do this again, so I quick cut it out of my table saw. Nice way to do it. You just keep squaring it up, sneaking up. And you get it. This is a little over 3 inches squared, and it's 6 3/4 long. Now, what I did with this was I ended up breaking it into pieces so that I would have a pattern that I could put on and trace. And then the heads, you've all got these. The heads should fit right on this period. There's just a small little shoulder right here, not a shoulder mark, but right where the neck comes in. And the only trick about this is these birds don't have a flat bottom like all our decoys do, so the breast isn't the furthest point out. In this case, it's going to be just a little bit further out. So what I did is I went around with my right angle, and you always want to knock off a little of the edge because you're going to cut into that for the bird, and you don't, even if it's a little rough, that'll disappear. So I ran around, figured out, okay, I'm going to start right about here, and then I took my pen and I went all the way around, and you know what? They all came out at the same spot, so I must have been pretty accurate on that. That, I've decided, is the front of my bird. So then, the head is going to sit on this nice flat. The flattest piece I have is right on the top of this board. So I set it like this. I then went around and drew the pattern all the way to there. Then, because this bird isn't like a duck decoy, this one isn't the same length as this one. It's going to be a little different. So what I did right here, okay, I marked a line to the very tip here so that I had that, and then I went up to the top and I continued that line. Now, and before I did that even, I ran a line right straight down the center, just to mark, so when I take this pattern, you'll notice I also have the line right straight down the center. So when I set it on here and line it up in the front, my fingers are sticky, I find that it's not quite as long. And that would be because that little part here. So if you run into something like that, start at the tail, and I better get my glasses on here. And I run it up to about the widest part of the bird. All right. And then just to make up for that little piece, are you getting this, Phil? Yep. I'm going to just slide the rest of it up to the end, to this line, go back to where I left off, and just continue. All right. So now I've got that, it'll match. When you cut this part out, it'll all come out to this line here, in the back, you'll cut it out. And before I forget, these are all birds on a stick, kind of, that's shorebird type. You're gonna mount them all that way, like this. To save yourself a little bit of trouble, if you have a drill press, find the spot where that leg drops down, where you want it to come out, and just simply mark it here, and then on the bottom, once again, just shoot this line across, find the center spot, put this on the drill press, just drill right straight down there, and I would drill that, planning for it to go up to about this far into the body. Now it'll be just dead on. It'll be perfect. I don't know if you've tried this in the past, when you've had something you wanted to mount like on this. We're not very good at doing this. It may seem like you're doing just fine, then you get done and you set it, it's like this or it's like that or something. This way it's right on the money. And as long as you're at that, the head you've got, you'll find right where this shoulder is, or this neck is, drops down. That's gonna cut right there. This head, I also drew that line across. This head will sit, if you use the back of this head and put it like this, where that scoop is under the chin is gonna come out right where the front of this is. So, if you're gonna attach this, like I did with this, why not get that drill press going? And all you have to do is find the midpoint right here. It's about, I think about 7/8 of an inch, something like that. This and this I use all the time. I always measure and measure. Measure twice, cut once. Find that spot there. It's going to be the same distance as it is from here to here. So you can be pretty much assured if you drill these, this will be the only one that'll be tough. Maybe somebody can figure out how to get this dead level and use a drill press. But this should be a perfect 90 degree because you're drill press. And I use like a 1/4 inch dowel. The leg, which I think, I don't know if anybody could read it even, but I think I put
5/16?
Yeah, I put 3/16 on there. It's 5/16. 5/16 is, that's the size you have. That will give you that so that you can, if you drill that, you can put this down here like that. And then you want to play around with it and turn it. Personally, okay, after you get that, personally the thing I usually work on is the head to start. I think Tom has talked about that. You want to get the head and the bill kind of done, because if it isn't going to work, get rid of it and do another one. You have to look at your pattern, decide how wide things are. This is approximately, see if I do that, yeah, right about here. I go in at the top and I just measure off. And in this case, I will pencil roughly the widest part of the head. And then the overhead view shows you how it tapers down to the bill. Taper that down. Then, I tended, well, I did all this just with gouges, knives, and I have different types. One of my favorites, just Marv Meyer made this.
Marv specialty.
Yeah, it's a little kind of a loop knife. And 99% of my carving, Pat Manili isn't here, is he? Okay. It's done just like this. But I find that when I carve in this situation, I don't carve this way. I'm not eviscerating myself. I just nick. I just keep coming, working around. And sometimes you can take, and this is one of my favorites. This big brood here, I can carve a lot. Kent Duff showed me how to do this. The guy that's coming, we're going to see. You carve like this, and you just start working like that. You can just keep scooping it out, and it's very safe because you're doing this technique. It's not a life-threatening thing, and you can go through it. And seriously, the first time I saw him doing it, I thought, oh boy, he made a believer out of me. It was just really a slick way to do it. And I do a lot of carving just with my gouges. Something about the head was all kind of set up like that. Then I sanded it down. But really a lot of it is just sitting down and whittling. And for me personally, this is probably the most important tool I have as I go along. You center line everything so that you all know why we center it, because you never carve out the line. You always carve to it, and then you end up making a curve, goes up. I think does this line show up here? Yeah, you can see that. The bill, when I cut this out, I left a little bit on the very front, so it's got a little like a ski jump kind of. So when I inserted the bill, I could, at the end of all that, by inserting that bill like that, you can blend it in to the head. And when you all get to the point where you want to paint it, the bill actually is painted into this part of the bird. You go right up into that, so it gives the illusion that you've got that whole thing. And this, I can't remember, anybody measured this? Just measure it off this, and just
Less than an inch.
Yeah, it's just under an inch, I think, a little bit. All your bills, I left a little long, so you can cut it off, but it's real hard to put back on type thing. You carve to that. Just mark where you want it to end up. And the thing about the bill is it has a little more of a curve, a little up. The top of the bill is actually pretty straight, except that a lot of us, I think, just get a feeling it looks like it's going up. Because it's a turnstone. They flip stones when they go on. It isn't a shovel they've got there. It's fairly flat. But then again, a lot of this is your own interpretation of it. I didn't plan on this being the exact replica of something. So I do carve the head out that way. The eyes on these are, Twyla, you didn't put the eyes in yours, did you?
7 millimeter.
They're 7 millimeter. They're brown-eyed. And what I do when let's see. Some people like to just get out there, epoxy sculpt, and go to work and plunk them in. I'm never that brave. I like to look these things in the eye before I do that. So what I do, I take tried and true plumber's putty. Unfortunately, if you've even tried, most of these eyes will go right into this hole. It's like a 1/4 inch. They'll drop right in there. And I'm just quickly, do you remember the lazy S curve? You've seen Tom do it on the eyes. You come in with a tool and you route down and you make that line. Then you go up through the front. So it looks like literally like an S, and then it comes back here and it goes like this. This kind of a thing. That'll give you your cheek, start that cheek. It'll round out the eye so it sets it down a little bit. And often when you go to put the eyes in, you have to get in and dig out more. I found with this one that I think I just took a piece of the putty, wedged it in there. Now if I can only remember where I put the eye, there it is. So now you've got it like this. I take the eye and just set it like that and just press it in, wet your finger a little bit, and we'll just remove. Let's see. There we go. Erasers are real good. Nice thing to shove and push with. And it's not completed, but you're going to see this? This is the eye I just shoved in. I don't know if that's how that shows up, but it's looking back. It's looking back at you.
Did you put it in too far?
Nope. I mean, I could change that a little bit right now, but I'm not going to go too nuts. But the beauty of it is, it's just a little bit of this stuff in there. And you can put both your eyes in and get a good look at it, so you know what you're going to have when you get finished. Then you can pop them out and go ahead and finish all your other stuff. Because it was done on a drill press, they're pretty good as far as this way. You know, they're not looking cockeyed. I don't think that'll be a problem for you. But like I say, a little bit of plumber's putty, it works out pretty well for me for just setting them in. And the beauty of it is that eyes actually fit right now, just pretty much to go in. Is there any questions? Okay, boy Lou.
Before the kit shows our head is already somewhat rounded, okay? Yeah, when we go home, how are you going to keep that steady to drill the hole in the bottom of that head? So
that's what I thought. That's it.
Huh?
That might be the where you really have
That
to.
should have been done before.
Well, it wouldn't have worked out so well. If you saw, when I did all these heads, I took a long board that was about this wide and about that high, and I took this and I just went along on that board, and I used that because I knew exactly how I wanted this thing to be lined up with the end of this bill, and I did about 8 on a board. And then I cut them all out like that, so it wasn't as easy to do this. I can't make it too easy for you guys. You might be able to set it on something, you know, really.
Sandbag.
A sandbag or something like that, and just if you have a drill press, run like instead of like an 1/8 inch drill, just see how it looks, and then you can go from there. But that's a good point. Good question. Anything else? Okay. Now, say you get the head started, this stuff, and you like it. Then you're going to have to cut this out. And this may be fairly repetitious for a lot of you guys. Your first cut will be the overhead cut. And the way I've learned this and the way I do it is I will do a cut. Often I'll start at the back, cut all the way up, and I will do a stop. And I will stop, back all the way out, go over to the other side, up to the widest part, cut all the way to there, leaving these 2 pieces attached. All right? Then I go around and run the bandsaw down here. I'll run it all the way to here and all the way to here. So when I end up, it's not real floppy, but it has some give to it. But now, my next cut is going to be to cut this from the top. But I still have wood on there, so it's still pretty flat. I don't have to jockey that around. And then I guess I would advise when you go to make the cuts, I wouldn't try and end the cut up here. I would start this cut just because it's a quick little dip. Just carefully start in, and you can only go to like to here, and then cut all the way up around if you want later. But it just, I think you get in more trouble if you try and come up this way and then try and sneak out. It might not work out so well for you. So that would be like the first cut I do. The next thing I do is right where, in this case, there's just a little bump here where the head and neck is, where they join. I would come in, I would make this cut. I'd run my table saw, bandsaw, and I'd just come in, I would just nick that just a little bit, just so that you got it right where you want it. And then just come up the back way to that point and just pop it out. See, I told you about drilling the bottom, so you got that one done. And if you can, drill the top. Now, what you've got is you've got this whole thing held together, and it's kind of like an egg. You just break it, pull the wood out, and everything will pop out, and you'll get a body somewhat like this shape. Then you can clean up. There'll be a little bit of wood right here. What I do is on my bandsaw, I'll run in, and after this piece is out, I'll just run in and carefully nick that off. You can always remove it. It's hard to put it back in. Don't get carried away. All right, so now you've got all that stuff done. And like I said, most of the carving I do on this, and yeah, don't glue these things in quite yet. They're handy. Piece of wood, you'll just find you're always doing this, setting it down. It's a nice way to do it. But this is different than some of the carving, or most of the carving a lot of us have done, because now you got to make this belly of this thing kind of have a roll to it. And we're not used to doing that on ducks. We do it on the tops. Always keep your line, your reference line there. As soon as you're done, if you sand it or something, just go right back, put it right back on, all the way. Let's see. The head. Once you decide, I probably didn't have to do this, but I thought it was a good thing to just practice with, and I don't think I've ever really, other than, not even on this passenger pigeon, I cut the head off, so I like a little bit of action. So I like to have the ability to turn the head. So once you've gotten this carved down, you're going to be putting it on this bird. It's got this big flat top on it. You put that down about where you got it here, and you make the head turn, and just trace around the neck, and then you can pull this off, and then you can start cutting away to that line. Just keep moving it down. And the further you get, when you finally decide, okay, I'm going to probably glue this on, then you can, once you glue it on, then you can come in and finish going in and making your deeper cuts. Let's see. Come on, help me out here. No questions? Jerry? No? All right. I don't know really. I don't want to go any further. Everybody's got to get to this point. Now, I won't be here next month. I'll be busy.
Carving the wings.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. All right. From this pattern, I had another piece of paper. I cut this piece out, and I did it so that I could kind of use this. I cut along where the wing line, the belly, drop down, and being something, I just needed something to kind of keep me in there, so I'd like pull this up, and with my pencil, I would just trace along here, both sides, And then you get a line that you can kind of follow. Now, it really isn't absolutely necessary that you even do this, because with painting and that, you can give that illusion, and it is a decoy. So I mean, it's just that if I've given me any time to sit around, I'll start doing different things to it. But that's a good way to do it, so you can keep your line there. The tail and the primaries. The primaries are coming up and meeting over the back. Maybe, why don't we just pass this around and you guys can look at it, maybe get a...
Whoops. Watch out. Here you go.
Anyhow.
What kind of wood is it?
That's old rotten white cedar that Steve Froelich brought back years ago. But actually it came out pretty good on this. Where was I here? Oh, the tail. When I cut it out with a bandsaw, I don't notch it there. You could, I guess, if you wanted to do that. I usually come in like a coping saw. I can just sneak in there. The cut is quite small when you actually look at how much is under on this pattern. It's pretty small amount. But look at it here as it comes down. You kind of get an idea how you can just undercut it.
You don't have a front view of this, do you?
I don't, if you look at the Google images or any good photographers, they'll have occasionally shots like that. But often the problem is a lot of them, they're always down, kind of, they seem to, that's the shot they always catch them and dropping like that. It's hard to estimate it.
Were they a table fair bird or not? Not eating them?
No. Nope, they don't shoot those as a rule. They're pretty protected.
How much time did you have into this bird right where it is right now?
The head, I did first because before I came to the last meeting, I think I had whittled out the head. And I probably had, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours on it, just kind of messing around with it. Because a lot of it for me, like you guys, it's going to be, kind of what is it going to look like. The thing is, when you do the head, not only do you mark the side, mark down here, because believe it or not, you can get really carried away here, and all of a sudden you realize, whoops, I got a noodle neck here. Keep that wide spot out here, Don't get too far down on it. And it's a good whittling kind of a project.
So you have an hour and a half in the head?
Yeah, and that actually probably was hour and a half.
The body?
Yeah. Like I say, I get into it pretty good, but I'm not taking big cuts. Oh, if you're using cedar, every time you get a slope, slow down. Because if you go against that slope, you'll just pop the wood right out. Otherwise, you can just kind of just keep whittling it away. Like when I do the sides of the bird, everything from about here, I whittle this way. Everything back, I'll go this direction. Same with the body. You have to start right about like here, because it's dropping up, whittle back, go with the grain that way, up here, turn it around. Tupelo isn't that tricky. Is there anybody that doesn't have wood? We were hoping that we could use this, stuff you got laying around. Like I said, I had this old white cedar. Jim, is that yours? Oh, okay, let me see.
I was lost.
Okay.
Not done yet. Got some more to do.
All right. Twyla, do you have yours? Come on.
After seeing the rest of these?
No. Twyla just joined the club last month. She walks in with hers just about in this position, so.
That's what I need is a picture.
The thing is, they don't all have to look exactly like that. If you've ever looked at even shorebird decoys, they're all over the place in terms of that. That's the fun of them.
Where'd you get the base of that? Is this just a piece of wood?
Yeah, he's got a nice piece of driftwood. Driftwood. Isn't that nice? I'm going to set this up here, you guys.
You got her kit last week and did that?
Yeah, never had a lesson.
First bird.
Okay, well, I'm just looking at the shape of the body. You know, I mean, that's really very nice. That's got a nice look to it. They're not real skinny birds, this particular one. A lot of the shorebirds can be.
They're not real fat either.
No.
They're probably not as big.
Well, the dimensions are about the right. I don't know about the beef on them. Yeah, when I look at them on the ground right next to me, they don't look this big at all. But this, she's got a lot of work done. She's got very excellent.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that's a start. The next time we meet will be May. It'd be nice if everybody was kind of in this spot, ready to paint. And I'd suggest look at Google Images and see if you like some other ways of doing it, or you can just try and emulate the one we had there, that one I passed out. And we'll also talk about, this is nice, this is a piece of driftwood as far as a base to mount them on. That's nice, you can do that.
Say, Don, I might do bases for the Ruddy, because there's 4 or 5 guys in here that have done a lot of shorebirds. Mm-hmm. And I'll just hand out a little thing of materials they can use. And then like if Kurt, I think Kurt is, oh, he's still there. Well, Kurt and Phil and Dave, all those guys have done a lot of shorebirds. And who am I missing? Somebody else too, probably.
Yeah.
But they can just talk about what they do, because they can be simple, they can be elaborate. And I'll do that next Thursday, or next month.
Next one, okay, yeah. You can go as nuts as you want with it. If you had some old manzanita root laying around, that always looks good, you know. I guess are we done?
Can be.
Okay.
All done? Okay.